Omega was rejected for having a weak wolf until Alpha King asked why his wolf stirred at her voice. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Lily Matthews had always known she was different, though she couldn't quite understand why. Born into the Omega class of her pack, she had never been able to shift into her wolf form with the same power as others. The whispers had always followed her, weak, useless, and broken. Despite her best efforts, Lily could never feel the powerful, wild force that coursed through the veins of her fellow Omegas. Her wolf was there. She could feel it deep within her, but it never fully emerged. As the years passed, she became more and more of an outcast. No alpha would claim her, not because of her looks or her nature, but because her wolf was too weak to serve as a worthy mate. The annual ceremony where Omegas were presented to potential mates was always a painful reminder of her failure. This year, like all the others, she stood in front of the pack, her heart racing as the crowd gathered. The ritual was simple. Each Omega would be chosen by an alpha, someone to spend their life with. But as the moments passed, and the others were claimed one by one, Lily was left standing alone, her heart sinking deeper into despair. She could hear the murmurs, the laughter, the dismissive comments from the crowd. Her only choice was to leave, retreating into the shadows, away from the judgmental gazes. Just when she thought the night would end like all the others, a sudden, deep voice broke through the crowd, commanding silence. I have one more to claim, the voice said, low and confident. She looked up, her eyes locking with a man who was like nothing she had ever seen before. He was tall, wearing the regal clothing of the Alpha King himself. His gaze was intense, a silver gleam that seemed to pierce her soul. His presence was powerful, overwhelming, and yet, there was something else, a hint of vulnerability hidden beneath the surface. The Alpha King, Alexander Blackwood, stood before her, his eyes studying her in a way that no one else ever had. Why does my wolf stir at the sound of your voice? He asked, his tone deep and filled with an unexpected curiosity. For the first time in her life, Lily felt a strange connection, a spark, as if something deep within her was calling to him. The rest of the crowd had fallen silent, and for the first time, she felt as though she wasn't invisible. She wasn't weak, nor was she broken. The Alpha King saw something in her that no one else had ever noticed. The night was about to change forever. Lily stood frozen in place as the Alpha King's gaze locked with hers, his silver eyes full of intensity. She had never felt like this before, seen, noticed, as though something deep within her had been awakened. It was as if his question was not just about her voice, but about the very essence of her being. The crowd around them seemed to disappear as Alexander Blackwood took a step closer, his commanding presence filling the space. Your voice, he repeated, his tone steady, yet curious. It's familiar to my wolf. Lily could hardly breathe. The world seemed to blur at the edges, and for the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. She didn't feel like the weak Omega everyone had always called her. She stood tall, though her heart raced in her chest. I don't understand, she whispered, her voice trembling. But as she spoke, the Alpha King's expression softened just a fraction, a flicker of something that might have been understanding, or perhaps recognition. Neither do I, he said quietly, his voice more to himself than to her. But my wolf, he knows you. He feels something I cannot ignore. His words sent a strange warmth through Lily, as though a connection was being forged in that very moment. She felt it too, though she could not explain it. His wolf's response to her had to mean something. But what? Was it simply her voice? Or was it something deeper, something that tied her to him in a way that made no sense? Your wolf? Lily asked, trying to understand. She had heard the stories of the Alpha Kings and their powerful wolves, how they were capable of feats unimaginable to the rest of the world. She never imagined she would be standing in front of one. Yes, Alexander replied, his gaze never leaving hers. Wolves are instinctual creatures. They sense things that we, as humans, cannot. I have never felt this way before. He stepped even closer, lowering his voice, as though he was sharing something intimate. It's not just your voice, Lily. It's you. His words were like a touch against her skin, a gentle but firm pull that made her heart beat faster. You are my mate, he said, as if he was stating a simple truth. But for Lily, it felt like the world had shifted beneath her feet. Mate? Her mind spun with confusion, disbelief, and something else, hope. It had always been a distant dream for her, something reserved for those with strong wolves, not someone like her. But standing here, with the Alpha King's words echoing in her ears, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she had been wrong about herself all this time. She had always thought she was nothing, weak, broken. But now, this powerful Alpha King was saying she was his mate, and the intensity of his gaze left her with a strange sense of peace. How could that be? She asked, her voice small, unsure if she even believed the words coming out of her mouth. You don't even know me. Alexander's eyes softened, a trace of something tender in his gaze. I don't need to know you, Lily. My wolf knows you, and that's all that matters. Lily's heart raced as he reached out, his hand brushing against hers. The contact was electric, a surge of warmth spreading through her, as though their bond had been sealed in that simple touch. She pulled back slightly, but not out of fear, out of shock. But I'm not. I'm not like the others. I don't have a strong wolf. I've always been weak. Alexander smiled, a slow, reassuring smile. That's what makes you even more extraordinary. Your strength isn't in your wolf. It's in your heart, your spirit. And that is what I've been searching for. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Was this really happening? Could she really be the mate of someone as powerful as Alexander Blackwood, the Alpha King? It didn't seem possible. Yet, standing there with him, she couldn't deny the pull she felt. It was as though they were meant to meet, meant to find each other, no matter the odds. Alexander took her hand fully now, holding it gently but firmly. Lily Matthews, he said softly, his voice almost a whisper. You are mine, and I am yours. We are fated. The words sent a chill down her spine, not of fear, but of something far more profound. She had always dreamed of being loved, of finding someone who would see her for who she truly was. Now, in this moment, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she had found that someone. She wasn't just an Omega. She wasn't weak. She was his. And that made all the difference. Lily could hardly believe what she was hearing. The Alpha King, Alexander Blackwood, had just claimed her as his mate. She had always been told she was weak, that her wolf was too feeble to matter in a world where strength ruled. And now, the most powerful alpha in the entire realm was standing before her, declaring that she was the one for him. His words hung in the air, their weight heavy on her chest. But how? She asked softly, her voice trembling slightly despite her best efforts to remain calm. Alexander smiled, his silver eyes gentle but intense. It's not about strength, Lily. It's about what lies beneath. Your heart, your spirit, they're stronger than any wolf could be. My wolf knows that, even if you haven't figured it out yet. Lily's mind was racing. She had never thought of herself as special. She had always been told that without a strong wolf to call her own, she was nothing. But here was Alexander, the Alpha King, offering her a future that she had never dared to dream of. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her thoughts. But everyone else, they all looked at me like I was nothing, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I've never been good enough. Alexander stepped closer, his presence commanding yet comforting. He reached out and gently took her hand in his grip warm and reassuring. You are more than enough, Lily. You are my equal. The bond we share isn't about power or strength. It's about understanding, about connection. And I feel that connection. With you, deep in my soul. The words sank deep into her heart, and for the first time, Lily felt a sense of peace that she had never known. She wasn't broken. She wasn't weak. She was seen. She was loved. Alexander's hand cupped her cheek, his touch tender and gentle. I know this is a lot to take in, he said, his voice softening. But I promise you, I will never make you feel like you are anything less than everything to me. You are my mate, and that is all that matters. Lily nodded slowly, the tears she had been holding back finally falling freely down her cheeks. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time, she felt ready to face it. With Alexander by her side, she knew she could overcome anything. I believe you, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. Alexander's expression softened, his eyes filled with a warmth that made her heart swell. "Good," he said, his voice low and sincere. "Then let's start this journey together." He pulled her into an embrace, his arms strong and protective around her. For the first time in her life, Lily felt safe, loved, and accepted for exactly who she was. And with Alexander, the Alpha King, she knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one that would be filled with love, strength, and a bond that nothing could break. Lily woke up the next morning in the soft light of dawn, a warmth she had never felt before enveloping her. She was still in the chambers of the Alpha King, the place where she had been brought to after her meeting with him the night before. The weight of the events still lingered in her mind, and she couldn't help but wonder if everything she had experienced was real or just a dream. She stretched and looked around the room. The ornate furniture, the large windows that opened up to the vast lands outside, it all felt so foreign to her. Yet, there was something comforting about being here. She felt safe, protected, like nothing in the world could harm her. Alexander had made her feel things she never thought possible. As she sat up in bed, she felt a soft presence beside her, and turning her head, she saw him. Alexander, the Alpha King. He was sitting in a chair near the window, watching her with an intensity that made her heart race. "Good morning," he said softly, his voice low and full of warmth. "Did you sleep well?" Lily smiled, feeling her heart flutter. "I did, actually," she replied, her voice still a little husky from sleep. Alexander stood up and walked over to her, his presence commanding but gentle. He sat beside her on the bed, his eyes filled with affection as he looked at her. "I'm glad. I want you to feel at home here, Lily. You belong here with me." Lily's chest tightened at his words. She had never imagined that she would find a place where she truly felt like she belonged. She had always been an outsider, always overlooked, never chosen. But here, with him, everything was different. "But I'm still not sure how all of this works," she admitted, looking down at her hands. "How did you know I was your mate? And why me? I'm not like the others." Alexander reached out, taking her hand in his touch warm and reassuring. "It's not about being like the others, Lily," he said. "It's about the bond we share. My wolf, my heart, they both recognize you. I don't need to know why. All I know is that you are meant for me, and I am meant for you. That's all that matters." Lily looked up at him, her eyes wide with wonder. She had never felt so understood, so accepted. Alexander was right. It didn't matter if she wasn't like the others, if her wolf was weaker than most. She was still chosen. She was still his. "I don't know if I can be the mate you need," Lily said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just me. I don't have any special powers or strength." Alexander smiled, his eyes soft with affection. "You don't need to be anything other than yourself. You are already everything I've ever wanted. You have a strength within you that is more powerful than any wolf could ever be. I see it in the way you care, the way you love. That's what matters to me." Lily's heart fluttered at his words. For the first time, she felt like she was enough. She wasn't broken. She wasn't weak. She was loved. And that love, she realized, was all she needed to be truly powerful. Alexander leaned forward, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I know this is overwhelming, Lily," he said softly. "But we will take things one step at a time. You and me, together. We'll figure it all out." Lily nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. She felt a weight lift from her chest, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she could truly breathe. "Okay," she whispered, her voice filled with hope. "Together." Alexander kissed her forehead gently, his touch warm and tender. "Together," he agreed. And in that moment, Lily knew that whatever the future held, she wasn't alone anymore. She had found her place, her purpose, and the man who would stand by her side through it all. Lily spent the next few days trying to adjust to her new life with Alexander. The castle, once a place of cold stone and regal detachment, now felt like home. It was strange to think that just a few days ago, she had been nothing but a forgotten Omega, destined to fade into the background of her pack. Now, she stood beside Alexander, the Alpha King, a man she had never imagined would look at her, much less claim her as his mate. Every moment with him felt like a dream, one she was both afraid and eager to wake up to. But even in the peace of the castle, she couldn't shake the doubts that lingered in her mind. She wasn't like the other Omegas. She wasn't strong. She had no gifts, no special powers. Just a weak wolf, a voice, and a heart full of love. Yet, Alexander had chosen her. He had seen something in her that no one else had, and for that, she was grateful. But still, she feared that one day, he would realize his mistake. One evening, as the sun set behind the tall walls of the castle, Lily sat by the window, gazing out at the vast lands that stretched before her. She was lost in thought when she felt a presence beside her. Turning, she found Alexander standing there, his gaze fixed on her. "You're quiet tonight," he said softly, his voice always bringing a sense of calm to her restless heart. "Is something wrong?" Lily smiled at him, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just thinking," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "About everything." Alexander approached her, his eyes filled with understanding. "What are you afraid of, Lily?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm. She looked down at her hands, unsure of how to voice the fear that had been gnawing at her. "I'm afraid that you'll realize I'm not the mate you need," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm weak. I don't have the strength the other Omegas have. I don't have anything that makes me special." Alexander reached out, lifting her chin so that she met his gaze. "You are special, Lily," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "You are exactly what I need. Your heart, your spirit, those are the things that make you strong. You have a strength that no one else could match. It's in the way you care, in the way you love. That's what matters to me." Lily's breath caught in her throat at his words. She wanted to believe him, to feel the truth of his words deep in her bones. But the doubts lingered, like shadows in the back of her mind. "But what if I'm not enough?" she asked, her voice small. "What if one day, you realize that I can't give you what you need?" Alexander's expression softened, and he gently cupped her face in his hands. "Lily, you are enough. You've always been enough. I chose you, not because of your wolf, but because of who you are. I don't need anything more from you. All I need is you by my side, now and always." His words washed over her like a balm, soothing the raw edges of her insecurities. She felt his sincerity, and for the first time, she believed it. "I'm here," she whispered, the weight of her fears lifting from her shoulders. "I'm here for you, Alexander." He smiled, his eyes full of warmth and affection. "And I'm here for you, Lily," he said softly. "Always." In that moment, Lily knew that no matter what the future held, she was not alone. She had found her place, her purpose, and the man who loved her for who she was. She wasn't weak. She wasn't broken. She was whole, and she was enough. And with Alexander by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they were unstoppable. Lily stood in the courtyard of the castle, the golden light of the afternoon sun casting long shadows over the stone floor. The soft breeze rustled the leaves of the trees around her, but her mind was far from peaceful. Despite Alexander's reassurance, doubts continued to swirl in her heart. She had never imagined she would be here, standing as the mate of the Alpha King. She had always been told she was weak, overlooked, and never worthy of love or attention. But now, here she was, chosen by him, and yet the fear of never being enough still lingered in her chest. She couldn't ignore the whispers in the back of her mind, telling her that one day, Alexander might regret choosing her. That fear was something she couldn't shake. As she stood lost in thought, she didn't notice Alexander approaching until he was standing right beside her. His presence was undeniable, and it brought a sense of calm she desperately needed. "You're quiet today," he said softly, his voice warm and full of concern. "What's on your mind, Lily?" Lily turned to face him, a faint smile tugging at her lips. She had grown used to his presence, to the strength and reassurance he offered without even trying. But today, she could feel the weight of her insecurities pressing down on her. "I'm just thinking," she replied, her voice soft. "I don't know if I'm ready for all of this. I mean, I've never been trained to be a Luna, to be by your side as your equal. I don't have the same strength the other Omegas do. What if I fail you?" Alexander's eyes softened as he looked at her. He reached out, placing a hand gently on her shoulder, his touch grounding her. "Lily, you don't need to be like anyone else. You don't need to be a warrior or a powerful wolf to be my mate. What matters to me is the strength of your heart, the kindness you show, and the way you love. Those are the things that make you my equal." His words wrapped around her like a warm embrace, easing some of the tension in her chest. She had never heard anyone speak to her like this before, with such sincerity and understanding. Alexander continued, his voice steady. You've already proven to me that you are strong. You've shown me a strength I never knew I needed. You've shown me love, compassion, and patience. You don't need to prove anything to me, Lily. You are everything I've ever wanted and more. Lily's eyes filled with tears, and she quickly blinked them away. She had never felt so seen, so understood. I'm just afraid that one day, you'll realize that I'm not enough. That you'll regret choosing me. Alexander pulled her into a gentle embrace, his arms strong and protective around her. You don't have to be afraid, he whispered. I chose you because you are everything I need. You're more than enough. You always have been. Lily closed her eyes, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her own. For the first time in her life, she felt truly at peace. In his arms, she felt like she could face anything, that together, they could overcome anything that came their way. She had always been afraid of being alone, of not being enough. But now, with Alexander by her side, she knew she was never alone again. She was enough, and she would always be enough for him. And that thought filled her with a sense of purpose she had never known before. I believe you, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. I believe in us. Alexander pulled back slightly, his eyes filled with a mixture of love and pride. Good, he said with a smile. Because I believe in us too. Together, we can face whatever comes our way. And I'll never regret choosing you, Lily. You're everything to me. Lily smiled up at him, her heart full of warmth. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She didn't feel weak. She felt strong, loved, and worthy of everything that was to come. And with Alexander by her side, she was ready for whatever the future held. In the days that followed, Lily found herself slowly settling into a rhythm within the castle walls, though everything still felt surreal, like she was living someone else's life. The halls were wide and polished, the air always carrying a faint warmth from the nearby fireplaces. Servants moved quietly, always polite, but it was clear they did not yet know what to make of her. Some looked at her with curiosity, others with hesitation. After all, she was the mate of the Alpha King, chosen in a moment that none of them had expected. And she was an Omega with a wolf that barely stirred. One afternoon, as Lily walked through the garden, she felt a shift in the air, a gentle pull, like someone calling her name without speaking. She followed the sensation until she reached the center of the courtyard, where Alexander stood waiting. The sunlight caught the silver in his eyes as he looked at her, his expression softening instantly. There you are, he said with a tone that made her heart warm. I could feel your worry from inside. Are you all right? Lily hesitated, brushing her fingers over the petals of a nearby flower. I think I am still getting used to everything, she admitted. Sometimes I feel like I am not supposed to be here. Like I am just waiting for someone to realize a mistake was made. Alexander stepped closer, his presence steady and grounding. There was no mistake. His voice was firm, but gentle, as though meant to quiet the storm in her chest. My wolf has never reacted to anyone the way he reacts to you. When you speak, when you breathe, when you simply exist, he knows you. And so do I. Lily met his gaze, feeling something flutter inside her that was not fear, but something warm and remarkably alive. But how can you be so certain? She asked, her voice soft. Alexander reached for her hand, lacing his fingers with hers. Because every time I look at you, I feel peace, he said. And that is something I have not felt in years. You steady me, Lily. You quiet the chaos inside me. And that is not something that can be faked or mistaken. Lily felt her breath catch. She had never considered that he might need her in ways that went beyond titles and expectations. She had always seen him as unshakable, untouchable, a force of nature wrapped in human form. But here he was, standing before her, admitting that she brought him peace. I do not feel strong, she whispered. Not the way a Luna should. Alexander shook his head gently. Strength looks different for everyone. Your strength is quiet but powerful. It is in the way you care deeply, even when you are afraid. It is in the way you continue to hope, even when the world tells you not to. And that kind of strength is rare, Lily. It is what drew me to you. She felt the words settle inside her like seeds taking root. For a moment, she allowed herself to believe him, to believe that she could be the mate he needed, not through force or power, but simply by being herself. Walk with me, Alexander asked, offering his arm. Lily nodded, slipping her hand into the crook of his elbow. They walked along the garden path, the late afternoon sunlight filtering through the leaves above them. For the first time, Lily felt the weight on her chest ease, replaced by something calmer, gentler, a sense of belonging. As they moved together, she noticed how naturally their steps aligned, as if they had walked this path 100 times before. "You know," Alexander said quietly, "the moment I heard your voice, something shifted inside me. My wolf stirred like he had been asleep for years. He knew you before I did." Lily felt warmth rush through her, soft and steady. "And what about you?" she asked. Alexander glanced down at her, his eyes glowing faintly in the sunlight. "I think," he said, "I am still discovering you. But every moment I do, I feel more certain that fate brought us together for a reason." Lily felt her heart lift, her doubts silencing just a little more. Maybe she was not a mistake. Maybe she was meant to be here, meant for him. And as the breeze gently brushed past them, she realized something she had never allowed herself to believe. She was not weak. Not anymore. Not with him. Lily woke up the next morning with a sense of peace she had never known before. She had spent so many years doubting herself, feeling like she was never enough. But now, in the warmth of the castle, with Alexander by her side, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. As the days passed, the bond between them deepened. They spent time together, talking, laughing, and sharing moments that felt more like a dream than reality. But there was one thing that still lingered in the back of Lily's mind. She wasn't like the other Omegas. She wasn't powerful, and though Alexander had told her time and time again that it was her heart that mattered, she couldn't help but feel like she was somehow lacking. One afternoon, she found herself in the castle's library, staring at a row of books, but not really seeing any of them. Her thoughts were elsewhere, tangled in doubt. She had always been told that an Omega's role was to be strong, to stand by their alpha and serve their pack. But what was her role when she couldn't even shift properly? What was she truly bringing to the table? "Lily," came Alexander's voice, interrupting her thoughts. She turned and saw him standing in the doorway, his presence commanding yet comforting, as it always was. He gave her a soft smile before walking toward her. "I've been looking for you." "I didn't mean to worry you," Lily said, her voice low. "I just needed a moment alone." Alexander reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "I understand," he said, his voice filled with empathy. "But you know you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your own, right?" Lily looked up at him, searching his eyes for answers. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do, Alexander. I'm not like the others. I don't have the strength they do. I'm just me." Alexander tilted his head slightly, his gaze softening. "And that's exactly why I chose you, Lily," he said. "You are more than enough. Your strength is in your heart, your ability to love, your patience. You don't have to be like anyone else, because who you are is exactly what I need." Lily felt a lump form in her throat. She wanted to believe him, wanted to feel the truth of his words, but the doubts still lingered. "I'm afraid," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. "Afraid that one day, you'll look at me and realize that I'm not what you need, that I'm not enough." Alexander's expression became even more serious as he stepped closer, placing his other hand on her cheek. "Lily," he said, his voice firm but gentle, "I need you. Not because of your wolf or your strength, but because of who you are. You make me feel whole, and that is something I will never take for granted. You are my mate, and nothing will ever change that." Lily closed her eyes, taking in a shaky breath as his words settled into her heart. She had always feared that love would be conditional, that she would have to prove her worth every single day. But Alexander's words were a promise that she would never have to prove herself to him. "I don't know if I'm ready for everything that comes with this," Lily admitted, her voice still trembling. "But I know that I want to be with you. I want to be the mate you deserve." Alexander smiled, a soft, reassuring smile that made her heart flutter. "You already are," he said, pulling her into a gentle embrace. Lily let herself relax in his arms, feeling the warmth of his presence surrounding her. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel alone. She didn't feel like an outsider. With Alexander, she knew that no matter what, she would always have a place by his side. And together, they would face whatever the future held. Lily woke up the next morning to a soft knock on her door. The castle was quiet, still wrapped in the peaceful calm of early morning. As she stretched and pulled herself out of bed, she felt the same sense of warmth she had felt since coming to Alexander's side. She was no longer just an outsider in her own life. She had a place, a purpose, and someone who loved her. The thought brought a smile to her lips, but there was still a flutter of uncertainty in her heart. The bond between them had grown stronger every day, but Lily still feared that she wasn't enough, that her weakness would eventually push Alexander away. As she opened the door, she was greeted by a servant, a young woman with a bright smile. "The Alpha King has requested your presence in the gardens, my lady," she said. Lily nodded and thanked her, feeling a small pang of nervousness. She had been spending more time with Alexander, but today, something felt different. She made her way down the halls, the familiar path now feeling like a journey of self-discovery. When she reached the garden, she found Alexander standing by the fountain, his figure silhouetted against the soft morning light. He turned when he heard her footsteps, and his expression softened instantly. "There you are," he said with a smile, his voice warm. "I was wondering when you would join me." Lily's heart fluttered at the sight of him. He was always so confident, so sure of himself, and yet, when he looked at her, she could see the vulnerability in his eyes. "You wanted to see me?" she asked, stepping closer to him. "Yes," he said, reaching out to take her hand. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you. Something I should have said earlier." His words, though simple, carried a weight that made Lily's heart race. "What is it?" she asked, trying to mask the nervousness in her voice. Alexander took a deep breath, his gaze never leaving hers. "I want you to know that, no matter what, you are enough. I've chosen you, Lily, not because of your wolf or because you fit into some ideal of what a mate should be. I've chosen you because you are you. You have a strength that no one can see, except me. You make me better, Lily, and I would never regret choosing you." Lily felt a tear slip down her cheek at his words. She had always feared that her weaknesses would make her unworthy, that one day, Alexander would see her as nothing more than an inconvenience. But in that moment, everything changed. She wasn't a mistake. She wasn't a burden. She was his, and that was enough. "I'm not perfect," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "I don't have the strength the others do. I've always felt so broken." Alexander wiped away her tear, his touch gentle and tender. "You are not broken, Lily," he said softly. "You are whole. You are everything I need. You've always been everything I've needed." The weight of his words settled in her heart, and for the first time in her life, she believed them. She wasn't weak. She wasn't broken. She was strong in ways that no one else could understand. "I love you, Alexander," she said, her voice full of sincerity. "I never thought I could be loved like this, but I love you more than I can say." Alexander smiled, his heart full of love as he pulled her close. "I love you too, Lily, and I always will, no matter what." In that moment, everything felt perfect. The doubts that had once clouded her mind vanished, replaced by the certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. She was loved, cherished, and enough. And with Alexander by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they were unstoppable,